Hello, this is Dennis. I'm Dennis Seatsma. Dennis John Seatsma Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. This is my video diary for Friday, August 16th, 2024. Friday, August 16th, 2024. It's about 8 a.m. Eastern Time. It's 77 degrees inside the 8 by 16 tool shed that I call my the wood shed. But anyway, today I plan to install the CPI fuel injection, the lower intake manifold plenum, on my 1994 Chevy Astro van. And if you look through my playlist, you'll see I've been trying to bring this van back to daily driver status since 2017, and I ran it through the body shop, and they did good metal work on patching the holes above the windscreen or windshield on two big holes on both sides, the driver's side, and they patched that up good, and we replaced the windshield and they painted it, and it looked marvelous when it came out of the body shop, but it was still leaking real bad. And due to a miscommunication, my Spanish is not all that great, and sometimes the way I communicate verbally, I'm at a loss, and I say or do the wrong things by accident, and I don't make my point. So the inside didn't get painted for whatever reason, and it's been rusting ever since. I should have put something on it, but I don't know, it just seems like as I'm getting older, time goes by faster and faster. I'm told that by other elderly. But anyway, in prior videos I replaced almost everything. The fuel pump, the fuel sending unit, the fuel filter, the fuel injection, the CPI, the spider I should say, the electrical connector to the spider, this thing that plugs in on the top, all of the sensors, the IAC, the EGR, the TSP, the map, just about everything you can think of, the O2 sensor twice, I mean anything you could think of, and couldn't get it to run properly. It was still seeking at idle. That's how it started, this nightmare. It was seeking at idle no matter what I did to it. And it got better and better as I added more new stuff and new spark plugs and wires, and replaced the distributor, swapped out the computer with a spare that I got from a salvage yard, changed the EEPROM, checked all of the wiring 3 times with continuity testers, did everything I could think of to get the seeking at idle problem solved, and then finally replaced the fuel pump in the fuel tank, and that got rid of the lean pop and made it run a lot better. This generation of fuel injection has a lot of problem with fuel pump, but usually the fuel pump fails because people run them down to empty and the fuel pump gets contaminated, or it overheats and begins a slow death. So keep your fuel tank half full to completely full on this generation of fuel injection, and probably newer cars too. I got a notice from Honda saying they're having overheating problems on the fuel injection pump in the gas tank, and it's causing failures, the fuel pump, randomly. And I went to take it back to the dealer to have the notice attended to, and they said, well, we don't have the parts yet. So when you buy a popular vehicle, you know, sometimes there's chronic problems, and this problem never got solved, you know, but they say it isn't solvable because, you know, contaminated fuel or water in the gas, or overheating the fuel pump by running it down to empty. You know, all of those things are operational things, behavioral. You know, it's kind of like other things in life that are behavioral. Physically, there may be nothing wrong with the body, but, you know, mentally or addictions, what have you. So, enough about that. But today, I'm going to install this. And I started to prepare the engine, the core, to send back to Powertrain Products. Did that. Got 4 out of 6 cylinder pistons installed. I had removed all the pistons because I planned to rebuild it myself or have it rebuilt locally, but I'm glad I didn't, because it's just too much work for me to do at my age and with my ability, and I'm very tired, but I'm enjoying this. This is a fun project for me. I'll be very happy to see it all put, and it scares me to death to take things apart that I know nobody else will put back together if I can't do it for some reason, if I get sick, what have you. So anyway, audience, I appreciate the thumbs up. I appreciate as the people are subscribing. I picked up 100 subscribers since I started doing video diaries on a daily basis, and I won't do that every day. It's only when I'm working on a project that I'll do a daily diary or a project diary. So audience, I know my videos are crude and I apologize for that, but thank you for watching. And fans, in case you're wondering, yes, I did get the timing chain cover installed. And audience, in this segment I'm going to prepare to install the lower intake manifold. There's an upper platinum and a lower on this 1992 to 1995 central port injection General Motors system. After 1995 they went to a different system. They're both called the Spider, but from 92 to 95 they had all 6 poppets fire at once. Also called Central Multi-Port Fuel Injection, CMFI, but CPI seems to be what most people call it. I hate it when things have 2 names. As a electrical engineer, professional, and electronic, you know, engineering terms are very specific, and engineers are real picky about names because there are so many things we are trying to communicate to each other as engineers, and having standard terms is important. But anyway, General Motors does what they want to do. From 95 through 2002 they went to another system. They went to sequential, where 1 poppet fired at for each cylinder, and it was said to be superior, but the jury is still out on that. Now I'm going to have to use the gaskets I have because I must get this engine running as soon as possible. I absolutely have to, because I have family and other concerns in Panama City, Florida. So I need to get this running, get the core back to Powertrain Products, and boogie woogie. Relative is I need to get back, let me put it that way. I don't want to say too much. Anyway, today is August 16th, 2024. It's a Friday. It's 9:10 a.m. in the Eastern Service area, East Coast. This is Dennis John Zeitsma Productions. This is not a how-to. This is a video diary. This is how I did it Do-it-yourself work can be very dangerous. Death or injury can result. So if you're doing do-it-yourself work, it's at your own risk. Otherwise, have a professional shop do it. And there are some very good professionals out there. But my experience has been you have to go from shop to shop till you find, or individual to individual, till you find somebody who does quality work and doesn't take shortcuts that'll mess up things. And I've found the shortcuts by doing my own work that the other people have done that were quote-unquote supposed to be professional. But hey, you got to make a buck, and if you're a professional anything, tick tick tick, time has to be managed. Anyway, I'm going to install this manifold as quickly as I can. The instructions say to put a 5mm bead on the front and back, going up the sides just a little bit. The gaskets, they say, don't require any sealant, probably due to the heat, the intake and exhaust. But anyway, I wish I had Felpro gaskets, but I have to use the ones I have. This engine has a history of failing intake manifold gaskets that get toasted, and so for that reason, people with funky problems may want to pull the intake manifold and replace the intake manifold gaskets. I wish people in the audience watching this video, my target audience is Astro van fans or other automotive enthusiasts. If you know a better intake manifold gasket set for this 4.3 liter V6 RPO L35 engine, please post a comment, send me a link on my YouTube channel, Dennis Sytsma, S-Y-T-S-M-A. I appreciate feedback, comments, thumbs up, and subscribers. I am not getting paid for these videos until I reach 4,000 subscribers, and right now I have about 400, and anybody I think can subscribe or unsubscribe at will without any cost involved. So it's up to you, audience. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you don't like the content, you don't have to. You can just continue to watch. That's fine with me. Anyway, other than the 5mm bead of silicone on the front and rear and putting the gaskets in place, and I just set the manifold on and do the 12 bolts to tighten it up. I like using flange headed bolts, serrated if I can get them, but I'll use the factory bolts here because that's what I have. And like I say, tick tick tick, time is wasting. I got to get this done before it starts raining again and get it running so I can return the core. Never return your cores until you get it running. And inside, I keep telling people I have limited facilities. I don't have parts washers and stuff. All I got is a 8x16 wood shed and whatever I can fit in there. And yes, it's permitted and all that stuff because Miami-Dade County cited me in the past for having an unlicensed shed. So, and my other project is my 1998 boat, Beretta Success 200, that's ready, water ready right now. I just am working on this project now, and I have a problem with my GT 5000 Craftsman lawnmower from 2003. I got to work on that too, so I can cut my grass. So all of that said, I'm gonna get some work done. And again, audience, thanks for watching. Do-it-yourself work can be dangerous. Do it at your own risk or hire a professional. Okay, in this segment, it's still the 16th of August 2024. It's around 9:17 a.m. Eastern Time. When I took this apart, I tried to carefully bag and tag everything. And these bolts for the intake manifold are SAE bolts. They're not metric. Some of the stuff I have marked as metric, but a lot of this is SAE. It's 3/8 of an inch bolt. 16-1 is the thread. or excuse me, 3/8-16, and it's a 1-inch long flange head bolt for the intake manifold. And I can only find one bolt, so I need to, and like I say, I like the Dorman product line. It's 3/8-16 by 1. It's a 960-2100. And as far as these part numbers, I will mention them as much as I can during the video to try to keep it moving. But I'm going to do a slideshow where I take photographs of everything, and the technical information and the part numbers and everything related to this project, this 1994 Astro van LT EXT. Dennis John Seatsma Productions, Homestead, Florida. As you see, I got some critters in the van leaving their droppings from time to time, and the iguanas like it. I've had the front seats done in leather, and I've abused them terribly. I have to get out here and clean them. The upholstery work was done by Homestead Upholstery. Obed is the owner, manager there, proprietor. Unfortunately, they lost my my sun visors, so I got to try to find those and or get replacements. I hope from Rock Auto. They're saying Rock Auto is doing more sun visors now. And they also lost my electric base, so I had to go buy another seat at a salvage yard to get a pedestal. And I don't know what it is with these shops. Why did they throw away things? I can't get these things unless I go to a salvage yard. You can't go to the dealer and afford, you know, you get the no longer available, or they want $1 zillion for it from the Chevy dealer. So I don't know, that's my rant about, you know, like a rock. Yeah, you know, unless it's an Astro van. This rock they don't want anymore. They want it to go away. But my target audience is fellow Astro van fans or enthusiasts, automotive enthusiasts, people that, you know, this is not a how-to, this is just a documentary on how I did it. It's a documentary, it's a video diary, it's not a how-to. These are the problems I ran into because I wanted a better outcome. Like, you know, let's see, this is my oil sender. Oh, and I'm trying to figure out how to remove that threaded thing that came on the powertrain. I sent an email to them today to ask production, how do I get that off of there so I can install this remote oil filter. I could just hang an oil filter on there, but I've already ordered the radiator and the oil, you know, lines from Rock Auto. They're supposed to be here Sunday. Today's Friday. And we'll see what actually happens. It's coming FedEx. FedEx is real good, giving you minute by minute, so I know when to expect it. But the reason they did the external oil cooler on this generation of it, I don't know what they did in other years. I only know 94. That's what I have the service manuals for. They were worried about oil coking, which is an overheating of the oil, so they ran it through the cooler. And my engine that I took out had 208,000 miles on it on the clock when number 6 failed. The connecting rod bearing failed and damaged the crankshaft, which is why I'm doing this. I found no evidence of coking in that engine, despite heavy service, and I use this thing for car trips to and from Gainesville more times than I can count. Road trips back and forth to Cumberland, Maryland to visit relatives more times than I count. Trips back and forth to Palm Coast to visit relatives, Palm Coast, Florida, more times than I can count. And gave me great service until the engine seeking problem started, and I tried to get the van repainted and the body work done in 2017 by paying Jorge's Body Shop. Now I'm keep going back to Jorge, and he said he is going to take it back in and paint it again for me, and I'm going to pay him. You should pay people for their work. But I told him, you got to seal up this windshield this time and do whatever restoration work. I went to another body shop and they wanted crazy money. And I'll go to other body shops once I get this on the road. Anyway, that's the plan, and the plan constantly changes. So I got to get some work done. Thanks for watching. Okay, folks, audience, Dennis Sietzma, I just found the bag full of lower intake manifold bolts and studs. It's 9:24 now, and I'm going to keep these bags even after, and probably mark them up even better, because some of the bags I did with P-Touch labels, and that was okay, but that burned up a lot of P-Touch labels, and I found doing it as a Word document and then pasting it to the bag was a little more effective. I can add more detail, and trying to convert these documents to Adobe from Word and then to JPEG doesn't work, doesn't present well on the video. But if I do this and I take a photograph of it, for some reason it works okay. So I don't understand why I can't just convert it, but anyway. And I had a date and timestamp on this camera, and then it stopped working, and I could take photographs with this camera and it stopped working. So I'm taking photographs now with my iPhone. I think it's a 14. Every year they come out with another number, and then you gotta, first time you break it, you gotta buy another iPhone, trade up, and they give you some money back, but not much. Anyway, enough of that rant. Now that I found the bolts, I can proceed if it doesn't rain. And this afternoon, when I run to Homestead, I'm going to go by AutoZone. They have a great tool loan program, AutoZone does, because I need an install tool for this harmonic balancer. I need an install tool so I can install it without damaging the crankshaft. I want to do it as well as I can. And the way the AutoZone, all of them say they got auto loan programs till you go to do it. At, you know, Advanced Auto, Napa. Hello, manager, I want to participate in your tool loan. Oh, we don't have that. It's by the store. Yeah. So it's up to the manager, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, AutoZone, I haven't had a problem. You pay for the tool, full price. When you return the tool, you get a full refund. So it's essentially a free loan, assuming all the bits and pieces are there, and they do check them every time you. So I like AutoZone's tool loan program. I buy tools when I feel they're affordable and I have a need for them, and good tools will last you a lifetime. Mine have. I started buying tools as a teenager from Craftsman, and SK Wayne and Mac tools, and the very high expensive tools are just unaffordable now for the hobbyists, when you can go online and get some pretty good stuff from other online people. So, and I mentioned Mitchell, they also sell online, so I gotta look into that. I can't drive to the falls every time I want, especially for these studs for the back of the engine. I'm just interested to find a part number and a source for those. I have an affinity for research, I guess, to find where do you get this part without going to Chevy and paying a zillion dollars or whatever Chevy wants. Or you go there, you get a part number, they give you a quote and no longer available. At least they give you the quote with the part number. I have to praise General Motors dealers for that. They do that in a heartbeat. They'll give you, they'll look it up and give you, so you have to go to the dealership. I don't do stuff on the phone. Somehow they take you more seriously when you show up at the dealership with the dirty little part in your hand. Anyway, these are all tips for people that want to save a buck and do things efficiently, even though it doesn't seem efficient. But the way I do it is I save up all my errands before I go to town. which is about 5 miles from the farm into Homestead or Florida City. And when I go in for groceries or gas or what have you, then I do my other errands. So thanks for watching. August 16th. It's about 10 a.m. give or take. And these are my go-to products for cleaning surfaces before I put gasket on, get the oil off. Either acetone or lacquer thinner. And need to go to town and get some more acetone. And I don't know which one is better, so post a comment. Says lacquer clean sprayers and tools. I got some RTV on some sockets and I can't read, so I need to look into that. Good idea to do that. And going to take some more pictures inside the workbench in the 8 by 16, yeah, 8 by 16 building. And some guy had this on the side of the road for sale, and I bought it, and he delivered it even. And then I got a permit and tied it down for hurricane. And I've had it reinforced since. I had it double plywooded and no windows, and I insulated the inside and put a little window shaker in it. But the best shop I saw, I used to admire the old guys in the trailer park. Had a double wide, and they had a carport, and they had a shop off the carport so they could work. And how well organized, everything was labeled, everything was organized. And I said, man, where do they find the time to do that? But I had a young family at the time. But in the 1970s I installed cable TV, and I was a lineman for AmeriCable here in Homestead. And I worked for Thomas A. Wellstead, wonderful guy. And it was a lot of fun in those days, in the early 70s. And I was a door-to-door salesman for AmeriCable, and also nobody knew what cable TV was in the early 70s. We had 12 channels for $15 a month. 12 channels, only 3 were watchable, the major networks. The other content really wasn't all that great. But anyway, it was fun, and I learned a lot working in private sector, and then later in a TV and radio repair shop that led into my college degree in electronic and electrical engineering from Miami-Dade Community College, which is now Miami-Dade College, and grown immensely. It's been a lot of fun, and I enjoy working on these things, and mainly doing the research, and I like it when I get a project finished. So again, audience, thanks for watching. In this segment we're going to talk about organization in the shop. It doesn't seem like I'm getting any work done, but actually I'm getting staged. I call it getting staged, getting all my ducks lined up before I get my hands really dirty, and put that intake manifold, the lower CPI, onto the engine, and you know, make sure I got enough ultra black to do the 5mm bead on there. And I'm going to take some pictures while I'm in here, stuff I got marked up, and stuff I don't know what to do with. I just bag it and then figure out how to label it. But I put common items alike. Now, as far as tools go, I don't like these things, these rails, but they're cheap and everybody sells them, so, but I do try to organize them. This is probably my most organized. These crow's foot, oh man, are these things handy. Very. Some of these jobs I don't think I could ever do. I'd be stumped and stuck if I didn't have a set of these in metric, and probably need one in SAE. The other tools that won't fit in a box, I throw into a tote and mark them like big SAE sockets, or bag them up in large SAE sockets. But the one I like the best, I got this at Northern, and this is a tool socket caddy, and I like that one the best because it's got a handle on it. I can grab it and go. As it's getting older, the sockets are starting to fall out of it. And then I have impact sockets of metric and SAE sockets. And I buy stuff online whenever I need it, like this combustion leak tester, or let's see, what other, Maddox combustion leak tester, or oil pressure gauge, fuel pressure pump vacuum tester, brake suction. This is a waste of money, this thing. I much better like the Biltmore tools, the built tools. You need an air compressor with that, part number 9073. But that thing is a great power bleeder, and it can be used for suctioning other fluids like your power steering fluid, your brake fluid. Anytime you need a little suction, that thing works great, but you have to have a compressor. Now I got an oilless compressor and I hate it because it's so noisy. But anyway, here's the thing I keep talking about, the oil rod retainer. That is Felpro part number 72665. I like the Felpro the best. Just about all the Felpro gaskets I got I like really well. And oh, what happened to that? It went blank. Maybe it's sinking time or something. But also from Harbor Freight, this pry bar set is useful. And I try to bag up all my hardware by what it is, like the pan bolts. And recently I got these from Summit Racing, and I like these a lot. This is a 12-point metric 1/4 inch drive shallow sockets. I like the black with the print on there because I can see it, and get a complete set for a few bucks from Summit Racing. And hey, advertisers at Summit, you should put the barcode and the part number more prevalent, SUM-90400. And I'm not being paid if you watch my videos, okay? This until I have 4,000 subscribers. But I like to tell people the tools I use all the time. And this is Summit laser etch sockets, easy to read, metric deep well sockets. And this is I don't know, 4.5 through 14. Part number Summit Racing SUM-90450. And I bought this too. I like this 3/8 drive, 15 I have a lot of metric now because it seems like everything's metric except for the legacy SAE ones. This is regular sockets from, I don't know, small to large. SUM-90200. SUM-90200. So anyway, big fan of Summit Racing for their very practical tools. So I'll be taking some pictures of this. I'll put those in the slideshow. And this place was a terrible mess yesterday, but I've since organized it a little bit, and I have everything labeled, or as much as I can. I try to label things so I remember what I got and where I put it. And at my age, it's getting more and more difficult to remember things. So thanks for watching. Well, I ran into a big problem, sadly. It's 11:21. It's still the 16th of August. 11:21 a.m. Eastern Time, Friday. I went to install the harmonic balancer, and like I said, I want to go to AutoZone, get a harmonic balancer install tool, but turns out this crankshaft is metric, and my old crankshaft is SAE. And I can't use the same bolt. So I have to acquire, this is like 55 millimeters long, but I can washer it and use a 60 or just use a 50. The problem is this is SAE. It's like 7/16 National Fine on this 1994 block, and I should have just rebuilt this because this is had a machine shop do it, because this is beautiful on its bores, and I got 4 out of 6 pistons installed yesterday. There's no ridge here. They got the original crosshatch. The rings were not stuck, they weren't worn. I had 208,000 miles on this engine, and I spun a lower bearing. The bearings wore out, which shows what you can do if you do regular oil changes and take good care of an engine. This is a 30-year-old engine, 208,000 miles when it failed. But when I try to use this bolt in this application, it won't work because it's a different thread. And this appears, I tried an M10 1.25 thread, and it was close, but it was loose. It was, you know, it's probably an M12 by 1.25, and it has to be a hardened steel special bolt, at least grade 8 or better. I called my friends at Mitchell Welding and Machine Supply in Miami at the Falls, and they don't have it. They said it has to be ordered online. It's a specialty bolt. So now that I know I have to go in that direction, I was going to email Powertrain Products and tell them what, you know, what do they have, what did they send me, and probably production wouldn't know, you know, but you know, there is a difference here between SAE and metric on the crankshaft. So I got to get this sorted, and I'm going to get that sorted. I will install the upper intake if I can get to it, but I got to go to town for different things. I think I may not have, I might be able to change that plan. I got to find this bolt. That's, you know, that's the upshot here. It has to happen. And I'm preparing this core to send back to Powertrain Products, assuming I get this engine installed and working and running. And again, as always, audience, thank you for watching this documentary, this video diary, video log, whatever you want to call it, is for the fans of the 1994 Astro van, which I thought when I bought it, it was a very nice looking vehicle, very utilitarian, very practical, and it tows. And all these modern vehicles you get today, they don't tow anything. I mean, it's yeah, it may be by design. You have to buy a pickup truck or a van or a truck to do utilitarian things, or you have to hire people to do it. And I'm not a person to hire people unless it's something I need help with. You know, somebody with artisan skills, or you know, some reason why I can't do it. I like to do things myself because it's more time efficient to me, and I'm happier with the result, and I learn a lot by talking to people, like calling the gentleman at Mitchell's. And the contact information I'll put in the slideshow for Mitchell's, but it's Mitchell's Welding and Machine in Miami, Florida, if you look it up online. And the guy gave me enough information, he saved me a trip. I was going to drive up there like a bat and get that bolt, but he said no, the bolt I have is not hardened enough for the crankshaft, for the harmonic balancer. And the guy really knows his onions. He knows sizes and everything, but I can't bring this engine to him so he could measure it for me. I have to guess, and by golly, but I know the old bolt was 7/16 National Fine for the engine I'm returning with that crankshaft, and this one would be metric something, probably M12. And he did tell me I could order that on Amazon or online to the automotive stores, so, but it requires research, so maybe I'll leave this for later and just focus on the, you know, I'm still going to go to town, I think, but I think I'm going to just shift over to doing what I can do right now, which is the intake manifold, upper and lower plenums. Can get that done and have that done, and then I can move on if it doesn't rain. And it's clearing up now, but it's threatening to rain too. Again, thanks for watching. Okay, it's still the 16th of August 2024, August 16th 2024, and I have to clean up the lower intake, and you see the injectors, the poppets. If those get dirty, you're not, or stuck or leaky, you're gonna have trouble with your fuel injection. And you call Rock Auto and ask them for part number 833-22101 and send them back your core, and they'll send it to GB Remanufacturing on this 1992 to 1995 Spider. Now let's say you don't want to do that. You don't want to use this old stuff. You want to go with a Holley Sniper 2. Well, call Holley and they'll tell you, well, you'll need an intake manifold because you can't use this one. And then you're going to need to buy the Holley 2 Sniper. And then you're going to probably need a transmission controller for a 4L60E. And maybe do something to your computer. I don't know. May work fine with the old computer. I never did it. So, but the costs involved, the tally to do that, as opposed to just sending off your Spider to the remanufacturer, is a big difference. The delta is big. So like a couple $1,000s compared to a couple $100, which is the reason why people are finding cores and sending them back for remanufacture. So if you have a 92 to 95 core that you know about in a salvage yard, you might want to grab it and have it remanufactured. Then you can sell it online on eBay Motors or what have you. But I've got enough for my lifetime, so I'm probably good. But a lot of people get confused online between this Spider, which is 92 to 95, and the Spider from 95 through 2002, which is the difference between all 6 poppets firing at the same time and no electrical wiring to. And in the newer Spider, the 96 through 2002, they have wiring. And I keep talking to Astro van enthusiasts on the van groups, and they think a Spider is a Spider, but you have to distinguish between the early Spider and the late Spider, the all 6 poppets firing at once, opposed to the sequential, which came later and was said to be better, but other people say this is better. So but both, excuse me, were done by Delphi. And so anyway, I ain't getting any work done, except that I did bring this in to the workbench and cleaning off the old gasket material. And I put this Velcro gasket on here about a year ago, and I like it. It's real heavy duty, nice. And then the gasket that came with the powertrain products engine, see how substantial that is. Yeah, it's equally substantial. Yeah, probably meets or exceeds OEM specs. And you know, Velcro makes good stuff, and so far I've been pretty happy with everything I got from Fire Seal. But I was missing that oil pump shaft retainer, which is right there. Gotta hold it steady. Hold the camera steady, stupid. Oil pump shaft retainer, says right on the box it's there. But instead I had to find one, a Velcro or Napa, and we talked about that in prior videos, so I'm not going to go over that again unless I lay my hand on the bag. It's clearly marked somewhere here, but I'm trying to clean up my shop a little bit, and I'm gonna just not worry about the harmonic balancer for now. I'm gonna run my errands to town and then come back and then do this intake manifold, get that in the rear view mirror. And I had done this. I did the lines in the past. These are HK11, and these things rupture all the time and leak, and it goes into the number 1, 2, 3 cylinder will get flooded, and maybe even hydrostatic lock, hydrostolic, however you pronounce it. When you get liquid in a cylinder, you can't compress it on gasoline, and that's not good for your bearings or your rods, or so having leaky poppets can cause problems. And I haven't cleaned this thing up since I did this CPI about a year ago or 6 months ago, and this is a good one. The other two I haven't tested yet. But what fails on these are the lines and the regulator. Now these regulators are available online, and they're even adjustable. So some of them they put JB Weld on it to make sure you can adjust it after they've adjusted it. Our friend JB Weld. JB Weld, great product, very useful in its applications. And so one of the two things fail. These lines fail and leak or crack. That's the worst thing. If it's really bad, it can cause an engine fire. I've seen Astro vans burn up. I was an eyewitness, and the thing was really engulfed, and I had a fire extinguisher, and the guy said let it burn because it's just too far. And bumper to bumper traffic on the freeway. So if these, replace these every time you work on it. And these were from Standard Ignition, and they were like super tight. You want it tight, but this had to be, it's got a rubber gasket. This had to be tapped in pretty substantially with a brass hammer. It was really a tight fit. And I made a mistake in the past. I put a double O-ring here, and on the supply line, this is the supply line here, this is the return line that goes back to the gas tank. On this side, it popped off after I installed and it leaked, flooded this side, and I think that somehow led to the engine failure. Although it did fail, was number 6, not number 3. So I'm still scratching my head on that one. Any comments, please post them, thumbs up if there's any useful information. But the older mechanics all knew about all of this stuff in the years before the internet or YouTube, back in the 90s, 1994 to be specific. And a lot of those people have gone to be with God, or are retired, or not active on social media. So I'm trying to do this for the benefit of enthusiasts or fans that may not be familiar with this older fuel injection. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just getting really hard to get good spiders these days. I saw one guy charging up to $700 for a remanufactured spider, and it didn't cost him that much. But trying to find parts, there's nobody sells this Maxi. They sell the TPI injector, and it may be the same damn injector. I'm not a fuel injection guy, so I don't know. So post a comment if you know. But they could be making these they could make these available, and it only may need a part number change or a minor thing. And these cores aren't available either, the plastic that breaks. And somebody noticed that if you force it, it'll break. And then you got to buy another core, which is a lot more expensive to get the core and what have you. So protect the cores if you find them for this 92 to 95 CPI. If you know of any salvage yards or what have you, they can be remanufactured and sold for people like me that are keeping the old machines running. And it's a smaller and smaller group, I think. But this electrical connector can become fiddly and intermittent on the maxing injector, so you want to replace that from time to time. This thing's pretty expensive, but you can fabricate it if you're good at doing that stuff. And I do have sitting around here a fuel injection tester that I bought online for like 20 bucks, and it works fine, but I haven't found any advantage to it here. I don't have a setup like a normal shop where you could test your injectors by hooking it up and seeing how it sprays to a piece of paper like they show on the TV shows. I just don't have a place to do that. I don't have the room here. And fuel injection people, I think, do it best. Now, where they're finding their poppets from and all the little bits and pieces to repair or remanufacture, I have no idea. Maybe they're fabricating them themselves somehow. Some people can be very resourceful. Anyway, we're stuck for now until I run my errands. It's around noon time here on the 16th of August 2024. Thanks for watching. Okay, video diary, video log on the 16th of August 2024. Dennis Seatsma here. I spent some time online trying to ferret out the problem with this crankshaft bolt, harmonic balancer bolt. I can't figure it out. It's going to take more time for me to ferret out the correct bolt to be used on the crankshaft that came in this Powertrain Products I assume this is a later year crankshaft, which may be identical as how it operates in the engine, otherwise they wouldn't have put it together, but has a different bolt, and don't know what. I'm looking at Summit Racing and Amazon and other stuff online, and it says it's an M16 bolt. Well, M10's a tight fit but too loose, so how the hell would it be an M16? That would be really big, an M16 bolt. So I'm not going to do any more with the harmonic balancer. It's going to take me time online to read and research, but everything takes me time, and I got to get this core back to them unless they give me an extension, and they probably will, but I don't see why they wouldn't, especially with the difference in the, but I'm going to have to buy another bolt and from somebody, and I don't know who, because I got to figure out the specs before I buy a bolt. It's a specialty bolt. It's an M8 or harder, and it's got a specific application. This 4.3 liter V6, and I'm halfway tempted to call the local machine shops to tell me the difference in the crankshaft over the years, or I could ask online on my Astro van group. I guess that would be the smart thing. See if the audience can tell me. But for now I'm going to do what I can do. I'm going to forego my errand trip, because if I went to town I don't know what I'd get other than lunch and maybe the install tool, and the install tool might tell me the threads, but that all can be done later. Right now, as long as it's not raining, and I just felt a few raindrops again, I'll put the intake manifold on and at least get something done towards completion. That, and I can probably do the exhaust manifolds too. I haven't bolted the transmission torque converter to the flex plate yet, so I can also do that until I get this ferreted out. Oh, this is frustrating. So, that'd probably be another tip. These companies that remanufacture, if you send stuff that you can't get on a moment's notice, like the correct bolt, I guess they assume you have the correct bolt. I don't know, but this is a problem for me, and I don't know what I'm going to do about it. And I got to get the other pistons in and get this core ready to ship back. But this is a good reason why you never send back your core until the job's done, and hopefully you've been paid. I couldn't compare between this and that if I had sent this core back right away. And I know companies want the core back immediately, but you know, it's a problem. You can't get any benefit out of what you paid for if you can't get to the finish line and get the thing running. So I'm frustrated. End of rant. Thanks for watching. Okay, video diary, video log, video documentary, 1994 Astro van. It's about 1:15 now in southeast Florida, 16th of August 2024, 1:15. Alright, I've cleaned up this intake manifold the best I could to get it, and like I say, I like to get staged before I do something. And then, of course, this side, scraped it with a razor blade best I could, and then used lacquer thinner to try to get some of this old RTV off. I'll go try some acetone next before, but anyway, 5mm bead along the front and back rail and go up the sides a little bit, it says, and bring it down to like finger tight, and then let it set, and then tighten it down to spec after it's set for an hour, it says. That's what the instructions say on the RTV. So that's what we're doing so far. Thanks for watching. Okay, it's still the 16th, and audience, I decided to make sure I had all the bolts I needed before I put the RTV on and set the manifold. I like to get staged before I take a major action to make sure I'm not doing something the wrong way. And I love these flange bolts. I like them even better when they're serrated, but these are 3 SAE bolts on the heads, and they're 3/8 inch -16 1-inch bolts. And I bought some from Dorman. I think I got these at Rock Auto, and they're like part number 960-210D as in dog. It's 3/8 inch by 16 by 1 flanged hex bolt. And the reason I have some of these are new bolts as opposed to old ones is when you put it together, some of these are actually studs, not bolts, like for the engine lift on the front driver's side in the front and passenger side on the rear. But don't drop things into the engine. But I'm doing this for photographs and documentary work and video diary. This is not a how-to. I make mistakes, okay? And I come back later and tell you what I did wrong. So that the audience might benefit either now or in the future. The sequence that needs to be done to make this easier. And like I said, I found out with the pan I should have worked from front to back with the front of the pan first. And excuse me, what I mean to say is the back of the pan has the studs, and you put the pan on and the studs on the back, making sure they're the right studs. Then you do the 2 front bolts on the front, and the timing chain. You know, I should have done the timing chain before I did the oil pan. Note to self. And the starter ring, I don't know, the jury's out on that one. I put it on before I married the engine to the transmission that I would have to do, but I could have let the starter ring off until I did the oil pan so I could inspect the rear of it. So I think I would do the timing chain first, and then the oil pan, and then after that I would do the starter ring once I had the oil pan done right. So again, note to self, start with timing chain cover, then do the oil pan before you worry about messing with the starter ring. And at some point you of course want to marry this up to your engine mounts and your transmission. That I think could probably be done a little bit later than the way I did it. I tried to do the engine mounts first, and that caused me all kinds of problems because I had to vehicle on jacks instead of its natural stance. So I show you my mistakes. This is a documentary, a video diary, a video log, not a how-to. Do-it-yourself work can be dangerous, can result in death or injury, so do at your own risk or hire a professional. Thanks for watching. Okay, I used a full tube of the Ultra Black this time, a new tube, and it's 5 after 1 now. And I got the 5mm bead. 5mm is pretty thick, but and I got it as smooth as I can for an old man. But notice the gaskets say this side up, so pay attention to that when you do the intake manifold gaskets. And we'll do that here right next. Okay, notice it still says this side up, and I got it stuck into the mud there, into the RTV on both sides. Now notice I didn't put any RTV on the gasket on either side, because when I called Felpro they said no, you don't do that, you just do the rails and up on the sides where it meets the gasket, and that's all you need to do. And I watched all these car shows, they never show this level of detail, or they show details but they don't show this, they assume you know how. So next I'll try to set very carefully in one smooth movement. I'll set this down and get the bolts in it and let it set for an hour. Alright, it's about 1:30 on the 16th August 2024. I have the lower intake manifold. This is the lower that has the spider in it, intake manifold installed. I kind of like this stuff. I used it, but you don't want it to squeeze out, so I wouldn't even do it finger tight. I just set it on there and make sure all your alignment holes are good. Now this is where having an awl comes in, because those intake manifold gaskets may not line up with the bolt holes when you set it on there, and you don't want to have to pick it up again, so you use an awl or a Phillips head screwdriver and wiggle it around a little bit to make the gasket move and line up with the holes. So now that's a done thing. I'll let it set for an hour, and it's 1:30 now, so I'll probably eat some soup and get a shower or something while this sets up, and then I'll come out and torque it to spec, all 12 bolts. This is why I spent so much time on staging, is I wanted to make sure I had 12 bolts, I wanted to make sure I had my surfaces clean and dry, I wanted to make sure my gaskets were here, I wanted to make sure I had the socket and the awl available, and let's say, what socket did I use? This is a SAE bolt, and it's a 9/16 socket for people in the audience working on SAE engines as opposed to metric. And this is like, most of this vehicle is metric, but some of it isn't. And you can see I got a little bit of squeeze out on the front, but I don't want it I want it to actually turn into a gasket and expand a little bit in the hour before I torque it down. And then it takes 24 hours to set with this version of the RTV gasket maker, and nothing on the intake manifold gaskets, left or right, and make sure that it's pointed this side up. And after I get the harmonic balancer sorted, I can put oil in the engine at this point, and I'll use the tool I bought to rotate the oil pump, and I'll see if I have oil pressure with the mechanical gauge. And I have a mechanical gauge I bought online. They're not expensive. They're like 30 bucks, or you get them at Harbor Freight or Northern. And it just goes into the port here, where I'm trying to point my finger to, on the back of the engine where the oil sender goes, and you connect there a mechanical gauge, and then you can rotate the engine. I gotta go find that tool though that I was talking about. I thought I had it here in the car somewhere. I try to keep things handy. And Sunday now they say I'm gonna have my stuff from Rock Auto, according to Federal Express, and then I can do the valve covers. So probably be Sunday before I can put oil in it. But we'll pause the camera for a minute, and then I'll try to find that tool. I thought it was in here. Okay, so you might say, okay Dennis, what's next? Well, next I'm going to do what I can do right away, which will be the upper intake manifold, the plenum that goes on the top of this. But before I do that, since I got that cable easy to reach, I'll show you how this fuel tester injector work. Or I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to talk about it. But you set it up for pulse mode, and it comes with the perfect little connectors here for the to go to the fuel injection. Then it hooks up to your car battery, and this was not expensive. This was Charlie November Bravo Juliet. Charlie November Bravo Juliet 620 is the part number, and made in China. Doesn't say who made it. It's got a corporate logo here, but who knows what that means. But LED, this would be good, but I don't need to do it because I know the one I have works real nice. And I'm not going to leave the distributor in it because I just wanted to make sure I didn't have anything blocking the hole. This is a new distributor I got from O'Reilly. Now, you got to be careful dealing with this thing because I dropped one of these screws and it went down into the engine, and maybe that destroyed my old engine. I don't know, but I don't see how that little screw that fell into the oil pan, these are supposed to have retainers on them for the distributor cap. So O'Reilly, if you're listening, check your stock. And the guy at the store was real cheerful. When I lost that screw, he gave me another distributor. He swapped it out, and I told him what happened. But these screws should have retainers on them so they don't drop out of the cap at the worst possible time and go down that rabbit hole and into your engine. Now, if that could have caused a failure of the number six, I don't know. Number 6 connecting rod where it goes to the crankshaft was spun, and it damaged the crankshaft on my old engine. And no, I've not figured out what crankshaft harmonic balancer bolt I need yet, but I am looking for that tool that I'm going to use to see if we have any oil pressure once I get this engine buttoned up and oil in it. And I don't know what I did with that tool. Anyway, I bought the tool on Summit Racing first, and even though it said online it was a tool, it wouldn't work in this engine. It wouldn't work, sorry. And so I went to AutoZone and bought their tool. It was a lot less expensive. It was like 10 bucks. And why they don't prime engines on these TV shows, you always want to get oil pressure up before you try to start the engine. You want to make sure it's got oil pressure. And the sooner the better when you're building it, even before you put it into the vehicle. Now, Powertrain Products says they test their engines before they're shipped, so I have confidence that it's fine. But anyway, I'll wait an hour and then I'll come back and tighten these bolts down to torque spec, and I'll do it in the sequence. People ignore the sequence, they ignore the torque, and that's where I'm talking about professionals who do work that's shoddy or sketchy. I mean, come on, man, look up the spec for the torque, look up the pattern and torque it. You're going to save your clients problems later, and the clients are trusting you to do the work professionally. So, and this is why I like doing my own work, so I can do it the way Dennis wants it done. And this is not the best way or the only way. People argue about what's the best, I want only the best. Well, yeah, okay, well, what is the best? You know, it's like what is sin and what is virtue. We can argue about that all day too, but I tend to try to agree with the norm. If we can figure out what the norm is, you know, I listen to my audio Bible all the time trying to figure out what the norm is. Anyway, thanks for watching. It's 2:45, still on Friday the 16th of August 2024. I wish I could tell you that I had a nap and a shower and something to eat, but I'm pressing on. It's been about an hour or so. I had to sit down with the factory service manual, the 1994 service manual that I have. When I bought the van new, I bought the manuals too. This is a VIN W engine, RPO L35, and it shows the torque sequence and the torque amount here in the procedure. And it says tighten bolts to tighten bolts to 35 foot-pounds. And in the sequence shown, which well, this is they're showing the upper plenum here. I have to find it for the lower plenum. And it looks like what they did is they were supposed to show both the VIN W and the VIN Z, which VIN Z is throttle body fuel injection, but they're only showing the VIN Z here on the intake manifold sequence. So I gotta find it. You spend a lot of time reading the manual when you do this kind of thing. I don't know how professional mechanics do it or engine builders do it. Just trying to get the engine back together for me was a real challenge. Okay, it shows, okay, here it shows on figure 14, it just shows the Z engine. It shows the sealant, there on the front and the back, like I did it, and it shows a better figure there, the sealant on the back, and then all 12 bolts or studs where they go. And like I say, the mechanical engineers that, you know, they show, you need to know the stud location and the bolt location, and so it's good to take photographs as you take things apart. And how the old school mechanics did it before iPhones and whatever, I have no idea. But one of the guys I worked with in government for FAA, and I was a member of the Professional Airways System Specialists PASS union. I was also a television union spokesperson for him and been on TV a few times. Anyway, I'll look up the spec. Looks like it says 56 Newton meters, 41 foot-pounds is what it says for the Z engine. The W is probably the same. But having these manuals is a real godsend, because you can't find this information anywhere else other than buying, you know, everything's online now for modern engines, modern vehicles, and you can pay a subscription for either on Mitchell One Do-It-Yourself or alldata.com Do-It-Yourself. You can, it's a reasonable fee for a shop subscription or for an individual per vehicle subscription. I think it's like $30 a year. But it gives you access to all the technical information they have from Mitchell or alldata.com. And but I get for every vehicle I own, I try to get the paper manuals in hard copy, because I think they have a lot more illustrations and a lot more information. So that said, one of my YouTubers asked a good question about why did I take the engine apart. Really just for less weight, and I'll get into that later when I go outside and tighten these down. But now I got the sequence, I know the torque spec, I can go outside and have some confidence that I'm doing it the right way. Astro van enthusiast, it's 10 minutes after 3 on the 16th of August 1994. I'm looking up the specs for the lower intake manifold to engine, and it says 35 foot-pounds for the lower intake manifold. It's right there, NW, and you come over and it says 35. Okay, So 35 foot-pounds, if I did it in inch pounds, which is what I got, it would be 35 by 12, because there's 12 inches in a foot. So we'd convert to inch pounds by 35 times 12, that'd be 420 on my calculator. My math is right. And I translate this to my torque wrench and see that 400 and 450, it's pretty easy to use this smaller torque wrench for 35 foot-pounds. And that's cool, but I'm ready to do that, but I'm looking for the right torque sequence diagram, and I don't find it. I can't use the TBI torque sequence for the VIN W because it says VIN Z engine on the diagram here in the book. So I have to do some more reading and research before I tighten this down, but I wanted to do it an hour after we started. Now Alan asked an excellent question. Why did I strip this down, the old core down to the short block? Why did I do that? Because a lot of people like to do it, you know, put the heads on and all that, and transmission and all. The main thing was weight. I'm working on dirt, coral rock, and with my age, I didn't know if I could move the 300-pound assembled with the heads on. So, plus I didn't know what was wrong with that engine. I didn't know I had a spun. I didn't know the crankshaft was damaged. I didn't know I had number 6 when I was taking it apart. Plus, when I was using this lift, this engine lift, I had a fractured weld here that you can see if you look carefully. This is fractured. It's not welded. And the maker of it is VEVOR. And it had been over 30 days, so I couldn't return it to Amazon. The time it expired. By the time I went to use it, and it broke. But it had a 1-year warranty, so I contacted the company online, and they sent me a whole new lift. So I was able to use that to repair. But anyway, it was a weight issue, and I'm working alone. I could have got help. There's some people I know that would come over and help me if I asked for it, but I work alone. Almost all my life I worked alone. Even for the federal government I was always working alone. Very seldom did we go out in pairs. But and we had to know how to self-rescue if we got into trouble. But anyway, I got a new part, and plus I had a plan. I didn't know if I was going to have a local machine shop repair this, or if I was going to do it or try to do it. My hat's off to the engine builders. There must be some good technique on how to get piston rings in the cylinder without breaking them and keeping the bearings in place. It must be technique, or some secret sauce they put on to make things stick together when you're tapping in the pistons. But anyway, I don't think I could do that for a living. I'm glad I was electrical engineer, electronic engineer. But the plan B was I was going to lighten this engine up as much as I could and haul the short block to the machine shop. And the tow rating is at 500 pounds, and this trailer probably weighs 500 pounds. Plus the block, it's probably near 1,000. The CVT transmissions are real delicate. You know, they're fine if you're not towing anything, but they're not made for towing, not designed for it. And the roosters are keeping busy over there. So I would have had to rent a truck, and from U-Haul and Home Depot it was roughly about $150 a day with mileage to take this engine to the machine shop and back. And again, less weight would have been better for me, Alan. That's the only reason, is weight. It's easier to assemble it, you know, and then put it in as one assembly, but because of my limitations and my resources, and not having everything you'd like to have to do this job. And you know, once this job's done, I probably won't need these hoists. I can probably put them on Craigslist or something and sell them assembled and pick up, or I may keep them, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do in the future, and at my age I'm not wanting to start new projects. So I hope that answers your question, Alan, and thank you for it. I love audience participation, especially with a good question like that. Why did you do it that way? Yeah, okay, well, I had a reason. Anyway, I got to find the diagram and figure out the torque pattern before I actually can do it. And so I got to go back into my easy chair and go back into research mode until I find the correct torque patterning sequence. And thanks for watching. Okay, it's 4:15 in the p.m. Eastern Time on the 16th of August 2024. Got all 12 bolts torqued down to spec now, and I used an old school torque wrench, 420 inch-pounds or so. I put a mark on there. Modern torque wrenches, you can set them digitally and they'll go click or beep or whatever, but old school you had to put a piece of tape and mark it or something. Anyway, I did find the VIN W figure 17 in section 9 alpha 3-19 of the 1994 service manual. So that's a done thing. Looks like it's going to rain again, so I'm going to put the tarp over the engine again. Next I'll be putting on the upper plenum on the CPI 1992 to 95 central port injection known as the Spider. Now I'm getting I want to get this engine buttoned up so I don't have to put the tarp over it all the time, but I won't have the valve covers until Sunday, so making good progress. Thank you, audience, for your patience. I hope you're enjoying I'm actually enjoying this project now that I'm a little further along. I'm not quite so tired. I was so frustrated, as you could tell, with the engine mounts, and I got to figure out the harmonic balancer crank bolt, and I got to get the filter, oil filter spin-on thing removed, and I've sent emails to Powertrain Products to hopefully production will answer me and I can figure out how to get this thing running. They probably never had so many questions from a client, but I am doing a video production, a video diary, a documentary on this project, and only this project. Thanks for watching. Okay, it's 5:03, still on Friday, August 16th, 2024. Friday, August 16th, 2024. Video diary, video log, documentary, whatever. Okay, I'm trying to get staged for doing the upper plenum, the upper intake manifold on this CPI 1992 to 1995 system. Unfortunately, it's growling in the cloud-to-cloud lightning and whatever, and so may not be this afternoon. This may be it for the day if it starts raining real heavy. But I'm trying to find the upper intake manifold bolts and studs. I've misplaced them again, but I did find my oil pump primer tool, part OEM Tools, part number 27060, and this is a good tool. I like this one. Got this from AutoZone. They had it in stock, and I had bought one from Summit Racing and they said it was for the V6, but there's something wrong with their research. It doesn't work on the V6. So when we get far enough along, we'll put some oil in it and prime it and see what kind of oil pressure we got. And Powertrain Products is real big in their write-up, the paper that came with the engine, the remanufactured engine, saying you must prime the engine. A lot of people probably laugh. Ha ha ha! I ain't gonna do that. If but it's real easy to do, and it's a good thing to do. You know, I don't want to dry start an engine like it says on the tool, used for turning the oil pump shaft. It's also a good troubleshooting tool. If I had an engine I rebuilt and the guy said I did the timing chain wrong, it was a 6-cylinder years ago, 45 years ago. I did it for a farmer, and I did it for just the experience. He had parts sitting on his workbench for over a year, and I said, I'll rebuild it for you if you tell me how. And he taught me how to rebuild a 6-cylinder. He was an old farmer. He's gone to be with God a long time ago. He was my friend and neighbor. He's probably 40 years older than me, but man taught me a lot. Heath B. Holden, Mr. Holden. He farmed in Cuba and North and South Carolina and was a county agent, and then he started farming in South Florida, and he did that till he retired. Really a good man, and he helped me a lot. But anyway, he wouldn't put a new oil pump in, and we had no oil pressure because the pump was bad, and that's what broke the engine to begin with. And you know, it wasn't an expensive part. He was stubborn. He just said, nope, I ain't spending the money on an oil pump. He says those never break. Well, this one had failed somehow, and he's probably right. They never break. I don't think the oil pump in this one is bad, but I used the one that came with the reman engine from Powertrain Products, and he accused me of doing it wrong, and I said, well, it's pretty easy to do the timing chain. You just point the 2 dots together on that 6-cylinder engine and put the chain on. So they took the engine all the way out and got the front cover off and the harmonic, and sure enough, I'd timed it right. So they put it all back together, put it in the truck, and then realized they had no oil pressure. They had a bad oil pump. And the mechanic, he fabricated a tool to do what this oil pump primer tool does. And you can do that. You can get a screwdriver and cut the handle off, but this does it better, and it's 10 bucks, 15 bucks, something like that. I don't know. I bought it a year ago. When I had no oil pressure on here, I checked it mechanically with this tool, and it was kind of weird because I had no oil pressure, and then all of a sudden it came back. I had oil pressure again. But by then we had already spun the number 6 bearing, so either something got in the pump, like that screw I dropped from the distributor, and messed up the oil pressure. I don't know what happened, but anyway, you make a tiny mistake and it costs you a lot of time and effort. And I could tell you some other stories like that where I just wasn't paying attention. I caught it out of the corner of my eye, and I didn't take the right action, and it ended up costing me time and money. So anyway, if it stops raining or doesn't threaten to, if I find the bolts, I will carry on with doing the upper intake plenum. Okay, I just found the bag with the upper intake manifold bolts and studs. And again, look at the photograph in the slideshow. The mechanical engineers did some clever stuff here, and I'll point that out once I get it installed. Some places they use bolts, some places they use studs, and there's a method to it. And I think there's 10 bolts and studs on the upper plenum. So now I found the bolts, I got the gasket. Next I need to find the actual upper plenum. It's probably in the back of the van here somewhere. I have to look for it. Okay, let me talk about the radiator. On the right hand side of the radiator we have the cooler for the transmission lines, and I need to fabricate those. I tried to buy them, I can't find them. There's PayPal make transmission cooler lines, but I couldn't find it for a 94 Astro van. If you know of a source, post a comment. On the left hand side you see the oil cooler connections for the external oil cooler, and this engine came with a setup for a regular oil filter. So I need to install this, and I need to know how to remove the old one. So I sent an email to Powertrain Products to ask them, you know, what's the preferred method. I could put vice grips on there, but I don't want to. Anyway, here's the upper intake plenum, and I've tested everything. Everything's new here. This throttle position sensor. This is your map sensor. This has been thoroughly cleaned. This device here, I forget the name of it, but it switches on or off with 12 volts, and it changes the plenum size for peak efficiency. And I broke something here I need, sadly. I got to find a replacement. I'm probably going to have to go to Chevy to get that. But this little device here, it opens and closes to change the, and I've tested it, it does work. And kind of dirty in here, but I got to get this together. I don't have time to clean everything. It'll be next time. But anyway, this is the upper plenum on the CPI from 1992 to 1995. And so I'll install this next, now that I got the bolts and everything I need, weather permitting, of course. Again, audience, thanks for watching. Okay, I barely have enough room to slide the upper plenum between the base and this refrigerant hose. There's just enough room. Now, I don't want to damage the pins on the maxi injector because those are kind of fragile, and if those are damaged, you are in, oh man, are you in big trouble. You can't get another maxi injector, so don't break the pins. Don't let the maxi injector get damaged. So I have to very carefully put in at an angle. When I install it, it has to go in at an angle. Normally I lift up the front of it towards the front of the car. I lift it up at like a 20-degree angle, and then I slide it in and then set it down flat. And it's not a big deal. You just have to know about it and think about it when you're installing the upper plenum. Don't break that connector. Now, that electrical connector you see there, the yellow thing with the wires coming out of it, that's about a $65 part if you buy it online, as I did. I just don't have time to fabricate it and do all the research. Somebody sent me a catalog and says, you can fabricate those. And I said, yeah, absolutely, if you have time. But I don't have time to mess with this. Maybe later I'll do more research. You know, like in the military, there's scroungers, or in FAA that I work for, there's research people, and I love doing research. I love finding the answers that the other engineers didn't know the answers to, or didn't have the patience, or, you know, they didn't think of it. And management would task them to do something. They'd go out in the field and come back with the problem not solved, and then I'd go out after them and the problem would be solved. And the other engineers weren't too happy with me when that happened. And management usually was, but management ran hot and cold all the time, depending on the day of the week. And anyway, I'll talk a little more about other things later, but for right now I got to get this plenum on before it starts raining again. I want to get this engine buttoned up, and I want to get the valve covers back on it as soon as I can get them. The one valve cover disintegrated on me, so that's why I have to get new valve cutter. I said that earlier. Again, thanks for watching. Okay, I've got it about halfway on the upper plenum, and it's I don't know, what time is it? It's, I don't know, like 20 after 5 on the 16th of August 2024, and the sun's coming out. But I have to make sure that the gasket doesn't move, that it stays on these. There's a pin here that it's on, and make sure I am not breaking that electrical connector there. I have to make sure I get past that and slowly slide it towards the front. And like I say, there's hardly any room to spare here between the refrigerant line and the part. So be very careful when you do this. And mechanics hated this engine because every time they had a fuel injection problem, they had to go through this to remove the upper plenum. And you know, it worked fine. I mean, it's good engineering. I like it, but it just wasn't the easiest thing to work on. Okay, I don't have it all the way forward, but you have to lift up, move it forward, set it down. Lift up, move it forward, and then when you're done, you got to make sure this gasket is good all the way around. Otherwise, you'll have a vacuum leak. And don't start the engine, beware, until you get all the bolts in place and studs where they go, and torque down in the torque sequence and in place. Otherwise, you'll have a vacuum leak right away. Ask me how I know. Haha. Alright, so again, I can't tell you how you need to take your time and be careful at this step. You don't want to break that maxi injector. You want to be very careful not to do that. Thanks for watching. Okay, I've got it. The upper plenum is now sitting on its guides all the way around. So it's in place, but you have to go around with your finger and check this gasket. Make sure it is not sticking out. It especially wants to do it on the driver's side. On this side, you want to check all the way around. Make sure the gasket is not slipped away. It has to be between the upper and lower plenum. Now, unfortunately, this is broken. This line that is vacuum, and it's an environmental, goes to that canister. I got to get that line. I don't know how I broke that, but you know, it's 30 years old. It's probably real fragile. So now I'll start putting the studs in according to the way the service manual says to do it, and see if I can get it done before. I don't think I can get it torqued down all 10 according to sequence before the next rain, but I can at least get some studs in place. So again, thanks for watching. Okay, every one of these bolts and studs on the upper plenum have a specific reason. The mechanical engineers had a reason, like those two studs on the passenger side that you see there. That's for hanging the ignition coil on a bracket, and it's got to be like that to hang that. There are other posts and studs on the driver's side, also with specific reasons. And for example, this one here, this has got like an E7 on the top of the stud to make it easier to take it in and out. So you need that, and that's going to be like 50 or 60 millimeters long. And there's two of these that have specific reasons, and the different bolts are like, I don't know, 50 and 40 millimeter long. But there's a reason for all of this, and to find out the reason, you have to study the service manual carefully and see where every one of these went on these figures. Figure A, figure B, on figure 16 in the book, figure 16, intake manifold assembly, VIN W engine, which is specific, RPO L35 engine, and this is the CPI engine as opposed to the TBI engine, the throttle body injection. And this is supposed to be the high performance version, and the most popular one was the CPI, although everybody complained about the Spider. And you know, what are you going to do? You know, it was state of the art at its time. It was actually some marvelous engineering done by Delphi, but by today's standard it's very crude. And they went from the central port where all 6 poppets fired to, anyway, it shows you every bolt in this diagram. And I took a picture of this page, and I'll put it at the end of probably today's video diary, since I have the picture taken, and I'll put it in the slideshow for. And I'm not doing all the TBI stuff because I don't have a TBI van, and so those people are gonna. But anyway, it shows you if you look here, there's the ignition coil, and it sits on these two studs. So if you didn't know this, and I probably had this upper plenum on and off several times, but it hangs on there like that, the ignition coil. But I had an engine fire. I forgot to disable the ignition, and then in the back of my mind I thought, don't do that, and then I did, and I had fire shooting out of the number 3 cylinder that was full of gas from the leak. So I have to get all this sorted as to where these studs go by the diagram. That's going to take me a little bit of time. The rain has moved away, but since it's going to take me a little time to ferret this out, we'll do this next, and then we'll torque it down. And so, making progress. We've got a lot done today on the 16th, and I am starting to enjoy this because I can see the end at the light at the end of the tunnel. And I hated having to pay all this money for a remanufactured engine, but in the end it may work out best for me that I did that, as opposed to pushing my other engine until it broke down. I broke down on the side of the road. At least this way I was able to plan everything. Now, as far as ordering the engine, I ordered it in April, and for some reason it was supposed to take so much time, and it took double that. And I think it was a miscommunication between sales and production. I don't think production got the work order, and when sales, I had to go back and forth with sales and show them my invoice before they said, oh, you've already paid. You know, there was a difference between a quote and the actual paid invoice. So I emailed them the invoice, and they said, oh, you know, another 6 weeks. But you know, the engine took longer than I wanted it to. I wanted this done before hurricane season so I can move the vehicle out of the area if I need to. I can drive it out. Sometimes hurricanes, if you move 50 miles away from where the center of it goes, if you can figure out where it's going, some aren't predictable at all, and others are. But you can move, if it's got wheels or wings, I'd get it out of there. From all of my experience with hurricanes, tornadoes, tropical storms, earthquakes, working for FAA, we got involved with all of the national disaster recovery stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to move on to figuring out which bolts go where, and then start tightening them down on the upper plenum if it don't rain. Okay, for example, these two studs on this side are Torque-X studs. They're driven with a Torque-X, those two there. Those two are driven into the lower intake manifold with an Echo 6, a Torque-X. I can't read it on the side, but these are Torque-X bits, and this I know is a Torque-X 7. And I'm running out of battery, so between the raindrops. But anyway, those two, not to be confused with this one, and I'm not sure what that one is yet, but these two I know from memory are driven with the Torque-X, and there's a reason for it, but I can't remember the reason. So if you don't have Torque-X bits, you're going to have trouble getting that stud in and out, or you'll just leave it in the lower manifold. So I hope this information is useful to somebody. Please give me a thumbs up if there's anything useful here. Thanks for watching. Okay, it's starting to rain again. It's after 6, so that's it for the 16th. I'm done. The 16th of August 2024. I'm going to get a shower and get some dinner and rest up and try to hit it again tomorrow if I can, weather permitting. I'm missing one of these bolts I need for the upper intake plenum. So anyway, my battery's going dead. This is it for the 16th, the end of this segment for today. Video diary, documentary, 1994 Chevy Astro van LT EXT that I've owned since new. I just want to get it back on the road again, and I'll clean up the cosmetics if I can later, the rust under the windshield and the leaking windshield and the bad dash and all that stuff. Bit by bit, maybe somebody in the audience will tell me how to do these things and get it back pretty again. Thanks for watching. Peace. this is the end of the video. This is the end of the video diary for today.